G'day people, today I'm going to be making rhubarb and apple pie because it's that time of the year. It's the middle of autumn, the apples are all ripe and I've stewed up some here. I've stewed up probably about 800 grams of apples and I've just been out the garden picking some rhubarb. I figured rather than make just an ordinary apple pie, I'd make some rhubarb and apple, seeing as how rhubarb and apple work well together. So this is going to be it. Homegrown rhubarb, easiest plant to grow. Unless you're in a really dry climate, it's not so good, but Portland gets rain, so it's good. It's easy. So easy, don't have to do a bloody thing. Just they just sit there and they grow, and weeds don't get in there because the rhubarb forms an impenetrable mass of thick leaves, and the weeds can't get through. So, easiest thing to grow. Mind you, might not be the greatest tasting thing, but give it plenty of sugar and use the, you want your rhubarb to be red if possible, but yeah, plenty of sugar. And you can even put a bit of cloves in if you want. Maybe I will, just a little bit. And cloves aren't compulsory, but they do go well with, if you like cloves, they do go well with rhubarb, and they go well with apple. So I've got about 800 grams of chopped rhubarb there, and I'm just going to add just a splash of water because the rhubarb is full of water, and once it gets hot, give it a chance, it'll start steaming and the water will come out of it and you won't need to add any water. Also, for a decent apple pie filling, you don't want runny. Runny is bad with pies because water is the enemy of pastry. Water will make pastry go soggy. Soggy pastry, it's no good. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Soggy pastry, no good. So the way to avoid soggy pastry is to seal the pastry dough with egg white, which helps a bit, but the other half is don't make watery filling, right? So I pre-cooked my filling, so I've got pre-cooked apple there. So you can see there's just a little bit of, it's hardly any liquid in that, just a little bit. And by the time I'm finished with this, oh my God, I can smell those cloves. Questioning my intention to put cloves in. I think I put 4 cloves in. Anyway, I'll let that stew. Probably take about 10-15 minutes and I'll come back. Alright, well that happened faster than I was expecting. The rhubarb's all stewed into fibres. I'll give you a look. Give you a look at those fibres. So as you can see, there's a little bit of water left. Not a lot of water, but there is some. Now what I'm going to do, now that the rhubarb is all broken up, I'm just going to drain off the water that's come out of the apples. Just going to drain it off. Like I said, we don't want any moisture, any excess moisture. Right, so put the apple in, mix it through with the rhubarb. Now it's about 800 grams of each I've got here, so more than enough for a pie. And a pie I'll probably use, I don't know, a kilo, maybe 1200 maybe, 1200 grams maybe. So there should be more than enough to handle that. So it's got to bring it up to temperature, and once it's up to temperature, I'll adjust the sugar content. Get it all ready. Basically, get it all ready before the pastry's done. And it can be just sitting there, and I'll make the pastry, and boom, pie. Oh, and I'll put it in the oven. So I guess hang on, what temperature have I got here? Hot oven, apparently. I used to do it, I think 220 degrees in a non-fan forced oven, so maybe in this oven I'll try 200. Just have to keep an eye on it. I've got these apples from my sister. So the apples from my sister, I grew the rhubarb, and obviously the pastry comes from supermarkets, well, bits and pieces from supermarkets. I normally use Granny Smiths for this kind of thing, for pies, apple pies, but sadly my Granny Smith tree, I think it's died. Very sad. Got attacked by woolly aphids, and other things went wrong. I think that's some virus or fungus maybe. I don't know if it was fungus. Anyway, sad. So yeah, these aren't Granny Smiths I'm using, but they'll be good. They'll still be good. So I'm just going to let that sort of reduce the water a bit, and I will microwave my butter. Now, the secret to making pastry, a lot of people are afraid of making pastry. Oh, it never works for me. Well, the reason it never works is you've got the temperature, the butter temperature's wrong. It's a fine line, very fine line, making pastry, because if the butter's too soft, the pastry will be soft, it won't hold together. If the butter's too hard, the pastry will be too hard, and the pastry will crack. It won't go where you want it to go. So it's a balancing act. So the trick is 20 seconds. Seconds in the mic. Now, short crust pastry can be used for savoury pies or for sweet pies. Let's get that out. I'll just find myself a tablespoon, proper tablespoon, proper dessert spoon. I'll find myself a tablespoon. Now I've just got to cut off the correct amount of butter. Bum, ba, bum, bum. 210 grams. I'm just consulting my recipe. Coming on. 210 grams. So I just weigh it directly into the mixer. Just cut off in chunks so that the mixer doesn't have to break it up. It doesn't have to break up the big chunks, it needs to break up the small ones. Really? Okay. Apparently that's 210. Alright, now we, because it's sweet shortcrust, you put sugar in. Caster sugar, 2 tablespoons. I always use heaped tablespoons, as I've mentioned before. Right. Now we just cream the butter and sugar. Start slow and speed up. Alright, so look. Let's get the video camera on this. First, this is the combined rhubarb and apple. As you can see, it's most of the liquid's gone. And here we have the creamed butter and sugar. Alright. Now, just take this butter off. Sorry I'm a bit slow today, I'm a bit tired. Didn't get the greatest night's sleep last night. So, let's get some eggs. Now we want to use the whites to seal the pastry. So we're just going to use the yolks. We're going to put the yolks in with the mix. That's not the best today. So anyway, hopefully it'll be right. Hopefully we'll get away with it. Come on out, you pest. Right, so I put 2 yolks in there. And then we need some flour. But actually I'll just beat the eggs into the mix first. Two cups of flour. Now I normally use heaped cups when I'm making bread or shortbread or something, but in this case no, don't want too much flour, just exactly 2 cups. And we need, because this is, I'm using plain flour, so I've got to add the baking powder as well. Right. You do need baking powder because the pastry doesn't rise. It's got to rise a bit. It doesn't have to rise a huge amount, but it's got to rise a bit. So we're 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now that's baking powder, not bicarb soda. Don't confuse the two. Although baking powder does contain, actually I'll get the glasses and read this. For people that don't know, baking powder does contain rice flour, sodium acid pyrophosphate and sodium bicarbonate. So it does contain some sodium bicarbonate, but also contains pyrophosphate, which releases the gas when it gets hot. So in order to make a dough rise, you need to release the gas. Normally CO2 is what gets released, and if you use baking powder, it contains 2 things that release gas. So first of all, the sodium bicarbonate is released on exposure to acid. Now I don't know where the acid's coming from in this, whether it's I wouldn't have thought it's the egg. I don't know, milk, butter. Is butter acidic? I wouldn't have thought so, but anyway, it needs a bit of acid to release CO2. And the other thing is, of course, the pyrophosphate, which when it gets hot, it releases. So I guess they're having a bet each way. If you've got any acid, you'll get bubbles, and if you've got heat, you'll get bubbles. So you definitely get bubbles, which will make your pastry nice and light. Right. So I just sprinkled it over the top. I mean, it's theoretically you should sieve it in, but everything's going to be mixed up. And that was it didn't stick together at all. It's very, very well powdered, that baking powder. So I just sprinkled it over the top. Now I'll just mix it in. Just mix it through. Now it should nearly form a dough just like that. Maybe. Normally you need a little bit of milk. That might be right. Just a splash. Be very careful with the milk, don't put too much in it. Just a splash. You put too much. You put too much milk in, pastry will be too soft and be useless. So did I get it right? And maybe I shouldn't have put any milk. Normally I only make this with 1 egg because I use 2 yolks instead of 1. Maybe it's a little bit different. I think it'll still be probably okay. Now, a lot of people put the dough in the fridge, let it harden up, get cold. But then if it gets too cold, then it still won't work, you know. So it's a fine line. I mean, I could chill it down a bit. experience, experience has taught me that if pastry won't work straight away, then it's no good. That's what it's taught me. There are ways you can save it. If you do get your pastry wrong, if your pastry's too sloppy and you can't roll it, or you can roll it out but it just breaks apart, falls apart. If that happens, you can get around it by using the cling film trick or the grease-proof paper trick, but that's a last resort. Hopefully you won't have to do it. Well, that's a big ball of pastry. Look at that. Let's put some water in this mixing bowl. Put some water in, let things soak a bit. My God, look at this. I mean, it feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. I'm hopeful. Just bought one of these things, right? Every man and his dog, Fred, on YouTube cooking shows got one of these. So I thought, well, I better get one. What do you want? Right there. Too much? Maybe. I'm being stupid. Right. Those things can all sit in there. No worries. I'm going to need pastry brush. Where are you, pastry brush? My trusty pastry brush. You can use the plastic bristle ones, but I tell you, the animal hair, I don't know what that is, probably, I don't know. They're better. Maybe it's horsehair. They're better. Finer hairs, they're good. Good, good, good. All right. Is this thing worth $10? I don't know. Everything's expensive these days. I mean, in days gone by, I would have said, no, it's not worth $10. It's only a piece of metal that's been bent around. But, you've seen the cost of butter. The butter I used in this, which is gonna, for one pie, you need one pat of butter, 250 grams, $4. And that was on special. That was on special, it was $4. Madness. But it's everywhere now. It's just in the last year, it's just got right out of control. Cost of living. It's gone completely insane. I mean, I know these things go up, but the last year or two, man. Right, so put flour on the board. And I just take I've already made a disc of pastry, right? I just take it over to the flour bin and I dump it in the flour bin so that it's covered with pastry, covered with flour on both sides, right? That's what I do. Rather than sprinkling the flour on both, one side and then turning it over and bringing it over to the board, just dump it in the vat. Dump it in the vat of flour. Bob's your uncle. Bob's your uncle. Fanny's your aunt. Now this is the best kind of rolling pin. No bearings, no marble, a solid piece of wood. It's great because you feel the dough. if you've got bearing there, if the thing rotates, you're not feeling it. And as for the marble, too heavy, mate. Too heavy. It sounds great, but really, you just want a piece of wood that you can roll and you can feel what's going on. So that's going to nearly just about fit, maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Now, the difficult bit. This is where you know if you've made a mess of it or not. If you've done a good job, you should be able to pick the whole thing up and put it on the pie dish without it breaking apart. If it breaks apart, you got your pastry wrong. If it breaks apart just a little bit, it probably doesn't matter. If it breaks apart in a big way, well, it is going to matter, and you have to have another go. Try rolling it out again. But, you know, it's not a good sign. What you want is for it to work first time. Like this did, so I'm happy. I was a little bit worried because it's just very, very slightly softer than normal, but only very slightly. So we get away with it. It's fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Right. Get a butter knife, bread and butter knife. Ouch. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And we collect all the bits. All the offcuts get collected. And you add them to the original, to the bit of dough that you set aside in the first place. So that you've got enough to easily cover the top for your lid. If you haven't got enough, you can make a woven top, you know. I like making woven tops, but not in this case. In this case, just for apple pie, I like to have a proper lid that covers the whole thing. So I start by making a disc. That way you've already got a circle before you start. It's difficult to make a circle with a rolling pin. So rolling pin tends to want to make squares. I mean, you can just keep rotating it and hope that you get a circle. Oh, that'll be right. Keep rotating it. Don't always do it in the same direction. Hopefully it'll mostly spread out. Now you're probably never going to make an exact circle. So, you know, close enough will do. As long as it's big enough to fit the whole thing, which that's exactly big enough. Exactly. Alright, so just leave it there and it's ready to go. Now just wash my hands. And I'll get a fork. And I'll just beat the white. And we're not trying to make meringue here. Just trying to loosen up the structure so that we can paint it. I'm going to paint it right over the pie case. That'll do. I'll just show some detail here. Show a bit of detail. Okay, so there's the pie case, which is just waiting to be filled. Here's our egg white. We just brush it on. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Easy peasy. Push it right on, all the way into the pie case. Do the sides, do the top. Need to do the top because that will seal. When you put the top on, the egg white there will seal the joint. So you need to do the top and the inside. You do the inside to stop the liquid from the filling from wrecking your pastry. Okay, now here's the filling. Let's have a taste. Yeah, got that the sharp taste of rhubarb. Rhubarb's very acidic. Very acidic. And you know, I've said before, you can counter the acidity with bicarb soda. But this particular recipe, this particular dish, that is not what you want to do. Because you want that bite. You want it. You just want to balance the bite with sugar. So it's bitey, the acid bites, and the sugar is sweet, and it balances it. So you don't get put off by the bite. Instead, the bite becomes a nice thing. I'm just going to try and fish out. Just going to try and fish out the cloves. One. I think I put 4 in. If I can find them. When they're black, they stand out. Another one. It's 2 gone. There's another one. Three gone. Can we find the 4th one? Can we? There it is. Found it. Yeah, that's good. That's good, that's got the bite. Got the taste of the apple. We've got the taste of the rhubarb with all that sharp acidity. Yeah, yep. I think it's good. It's got sugar in it, it's sweet, but it's not sickly sweet. It's not sickly sweet, but it is sweet. Alright, the pie you've been waiting for. Fill up the pie case. Easy as you like. Easy as you like. Man, that's a big pie cases. There it is. Alright, I think it's done. Probably took about 25 minutes. That's the colour I want to see. I'll just take the video. That's the colour I want to see. I've got some black bits, some burnt bits just on the very edge, but only on one side because my stove doesn't cook entirely symmetrically. So, you know, what you can see one side of the pie is a bit lighter than the other. So the bit that was towards the back is the bit that overcooked. But that's fine. It's only just a little bit on the edge. Totally fine. Now I'm sorry that my my camera cut off before I put the lid on the pie in the last clip. It didn't miss by much, but it did miss. I mean, I'm not happy about it. It's my beloved Nikon D750, I think it is. Yeah, D750, which is a full frame sensor and excellent camera. You know, one of the best cameras ever made, in my opinion, and a proper SLR, not a mirrorless job. Great camera, but for some reason it cuts off after 30 minutes. Just terminates the video. Why? Stupid. Anyway, it is what it is. So here we are. I mean, ideally, probably what we want to do here is let the pie cool down a little bit. So I might just do that. It's going to be very hot to eat. Alright, it's cooled down, let's eat it. Get a nice piece off. Always gets a little bit mushy, especially when you're eating it hot, and when you eat the first slice never comes out nice, never comes out perfect, but it still tastes good. So we'll just photograph this. Alright, let's go. Alright, there's the pie. Now when you do this when it's cold, it'll come out, you'll get it coming out in a nice wedge. But you won't get it coming out in a nice wedge when it's hot, straight out of the oven. It's too soft, too liquidy, too soft. No, it's not liquidy, you can see there's no visible water running around, but it's very soft. Of course it's going to be hot. Yeah, there it is. Apple and rhubarb pie. Really sharp rhubarb. What I would normally do here is put cream on, which will deaden down the sharpness a bit. I don't have any cream with me at the moment, so I'm just going to put a little bit more sugar. A little bit more sugar. Should be right. Really good. That is really good. Had a little bit of extra sugar, made all the difference. Sprinkle a bit on top. I don't know if you're used to having homemade apple pie, but I certainly am. I grew up with it. Mum used to make it very regularly, and I always make it. I make it regularly, especially from this time on, probably for the next few months while there's fresh apples around. I'll make it. Just it's a real homely thing, you know. Apple pie, fantastic, really good. Taste the apple, taste the rhubarb, sharpness, a lot of sharpness in this pie, but put a fair bit of sugar in to balance the sharpness. It's really good. And you've got the pastry. This is a big pie dish, so the pastry is you know, a small fraction of the total volume. And as well, 1400 grams, at least 1400 grams of fruit in this pie. It's a lot of fruit. So, you know, it's I'm sure it's going to keep me going for more than a week. I'll be eating it every day for probably 10 days. I mean, that's what, oh, well, there's at least 8. There's at least 8 slices like this in the pie. So, really good. So, there's a million ways to make apple pies. People make them, some people make them with raw apples and they cook in the pie, but good luck with that. If you can pull it off, great, but don't like the chances really. Much safer to cook the filling first. Same goes to savoury pies, meat pies. Cook the meat first. Cook the potato. Cook the apple and rhubarb first. That way you know what it's going to taste like in the middle. Fantastic. That's how I do it. Have a go. Don't be afraid of making your own pastry, because unless you make your own pastry, you'll never get that really good short crust pie.